My guest, Chief Johnson Chukwu, is joining me this morning. He is the Group Managing Director at Carry Asset Management. Chief Chuku, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Chief Nancy, and thank you for having me.
It's been a while we spoke. How are you? And how is Lagos? Has the Christmas mood set in? Here in Abuja, I'm seeing snippets of it though. A lot of decorations, going on in offices across, the town. But that is also left. Many poor people don't even know if Christmas is coming or not. They are still thinking of how to survive. But how is it going on there in Lagos?
Well, Lagos is I was telling my wife yesterday that Lagos would be among the first sub-nationals that will recover from the economic crisis because Lagos is largely private sector driven. So we've seen a lot of decorations. If you go to some streets, some high streets in Lagos, some banks that have basically owned the decoration of some streets have beautified the street. They look so gaily that people come out in the evening to come and look at the Christmas decorations on streets like Adola, just Adeogo Street. So Lagos is in a more in Christmas mood. Of course, we all know that households are going through excruciating pain trying to make ends meet. But it is Christmas, and it is Christmas. See behind me that we have my office fully decorated for Christmas.
Because I was looking at it, but my glasses is not even. I think I need to talk to my optician soon because even with these glasses, I'm seeing like a red, but I couldn't make up what is there, or whether the monitor has to be very close to me for me to see very well. But just like you said, Christmas is Christmas. I was also speaking with my husband over the weekend, and I said, whenever it's Christmas, you will just know whether the economy is not doing well or the economy is doing well. People will just, just strive to make Christmas Christmas. But it now depends on the degree of celebration. You may be buying 10 chickens before, but now 5 chickens. You may be giving bag of rice before 50 kg. Now you will be giving 25. You may, things like that. But Christmas will always be Christmas. Now let me start from where you ended, talking about Lagos. Let's bring that in a bit. Even though we're talking about Nigerian economic situation, and you're really right on point, saying that Lagos is the economic center of the country. What do you think, especially as we expect the state of states reports this week, among some of the things we'll be watching this week? You know that Lagos State has always been in front in terms of generation of IGR. Among the other states, you have Lagos State, you have FCT, for example. I think Lagos generated about over 650 billion last year for IGR. What do you see moving forward for Lagos State, especially with the invigoration of reforms that Governor Sanwo-Olu is bringing? And if you see growth in Lagos, and if you see growth, do you see it cascading to other states in Nigeria? Or that history will just still be there, same old, same old? Some other states don't draw as many lessons as they will from Lagos.
Okay, Nancy, let me start by saying this. You did mention the volume of internally generated revenue that Lagos State has the benefit of getting. And we are saying that, look, do we see other states leveraging on that or aping that and also growing it?
Is that connection frozen? Or is it? Okay. I guess Mr. Chukwu is frozen there. The connection actually, not him. Should we take a break to reconnect and see if we can get him back online? Okay. Let's quickly take a break and see if we can reconnect with Johnson Chukwu, who is the GMD at Carry Asset Management Limited. All right, welcome back. We have Johnson Chukwu, the GMD at Carry Assets Management Limited, joining us again. Mr. Chukwu, sorry for the network, issue. We don't really know where that is coming from. But would you want to land on the question which I earlier asked?
Yes, okay. I was saying that, I don't know where I was caught up, but I said, look, the fact that the competencies that Lagos State has built over time are replicable. A state like Kaduna State has seen an improvement in its IGR, obviously taking some pages from what Lagos has done. We've also seen material improvement in IGR in a state like Edo State. We should expect some, we are witnessing improvement under the current government in Enugu State, and we think a number of states will have to leverage on that, taking the good things that are applicable in Lagos and also modifying it to suit their local environment.
Mm. Now,
having said that,
yeah,
I was also saying that you also made asked what's the way forward or what should you expect? I think what we should expect that we should expect some higher level of citizen activism that will require value for money for the amount that the governments are getting as revenue. I don't think we can say anybody can beat his chest and say, look, if you go to any of these states, or for instance, the Lagos State, that you can actually see a footprint of the amount of revenue that's being earned by the state. There's still huge paucity of social and physical infrastructure, gaps that need to be filled with that level of resources. I think that's one of the things we should be pushing, that we should change the narrative. We should be asking the government, we need a proof of how much money you got from us and how well you have spent it.
How should citizens go about that?
Well, it's part of what we just done now. We're putting it to the government that we think, in terms of evidence of the amount of resources that they're disposing, we're not seeing enough of that. We are different fora, citizens should ask, and they should query, interrogate the budgets of the states and the federal government. And then we'll also ask for comparative analysis of value for money. By now, Nigerians should be asking government in their budget review. We should ask for quarterly budget review, performance review. I mean, quarterly budget performance review from the governors. It could be a state-wide or a state of economic and social condition address that the state government should do at least every quarter of the year, and that should highlight the performance of the budget and value for money. If, for instance, the government says we bought a Toyota Corolla for 50 million, we should ask, where did you buy that from? We know that Toyota Corolla goes for maybe 40 million. So how did they spend additional 10 million? We should interrogate the process of capital project execution.
But Mr. Chukwu, sorry to butt in, that is also the responsibility of the parliament to do, because 200 million Nigerians cannot ask how many civil servants, public servants, how much that is in terms of public accounts efficiency. Don't you think that the parliament should do better in that? Because even when you listen to them, so as our constituency, we're sent there by the people, we're representative of the people. So how should the parliament, members of the parliament, represent the people more?
You know, Nancy, unfortunately, in almost all the states, the assembly, the parliament, even at the federal level, now, and I say that with a sense of responsibility, have become an appendage of the executive. So the checks and balances that the legislature is supposed to provide in a democracy of this nature have been lost, at least at the current moment in Nigeria. So we as citizens must find a way of playing those roles that the National Assembly or the state assemblies are supposed to have played. And because as it stands today, we've seen situations where at the state level, budgets are passed without being interrogated. At the federal level, we have witnessed supplementary budgets being passed without being interrogated. And I'm sure the national budget, the 2024 budget, will also go through the same route. So we are dealing with a situation, a peculiarity that is unique to Nigeria. And we must find a way of counteracting that weakness we have in our democratic structure.
Now, if we take a look at the overall economy and how our economy is holding up, in fact, I need to give it to Nigerian people this year. We just have a few more days to the end of this year, and Nigerians are very resilient. But as an economist, on a scale of 1 to 5, can you give me a rate of how the economy has performed from January till now? 1 to 5, you know, you're a lecturer now scoring Nigeria as your student. What will that be? 1 over 5, 0 to 5 being the rate.
Okay, Nancy, what I will do for you is to give you the parameters to measure an economy.
No.
And then
Give me the
then
number.
you
Give me the number,
yeah,
Mr. Chukwu.
then
Then
you will
you
know
give
how they
me
have scored.
the number. Then give me the reason for the number.
No, we'll come to we'll arrive at a scoring now. Now you look at GDP growth rate. In the first quarter of the year, GDP grew at 2.31%. Second quarter, it grew at 2.51%.
5%, yes.
Third quarter, it grew at 2.54%. All below 3%. Population growth rate is about 2.5, 2.6%. Okay. In terms of inflation, we are dealing with an inflation figure of 27.33%. In terms of exchange rates, you did mention that the NAFEX has gotten to 1,099 naira to a dollar. At the parallel market window, it crossed above. It had crossed 1,300. I think it traded about 1,200 last week. Then, in terms of we talked about exchange rates. In terms of interest rates, we've seen T-bills yield at about 16.75%, but savings account rate is still in the region of 5%, 3.5%.
Yeah.
In terms of households savings, those who have the capacity to save, they are earning materially below the inflation rate of 27.33%. Okay, now the other aspect is on employment. NDS came out with unemployment figure of 4.1%, and we all decided to discard it and ignore it. That since they decided to send us a report that is useless, they have to take their report back because it's useless. You can't use it. Even the government does not use it now. The government cannot tell you that, look, unemployment rate is 4.1%.
You know why I'm laughing? Because I had the statistician general when the report came out, I think in September, and he was trying to convince me on the show why it is 4.1%. And I remember him telling me, saying, Nancy, it's global standards, international best practice. And I told him, I said, I don't agree for this one. It was an interview that, you know, is one for me this year. So that's actually why I'm laughing.
No, the reality is that the Statistician General really did a huge damage to himself and to the MBS by that publication. How can you come up with an inflation and unemployment figure that even you cannot use to do anything? The purpose of data and information is for it to be used for decision making. So can Nigeria plan that based on if we have an unemployment rate of 4.1%, then we have full employment.
Yes.
Economy. So we don't need to do anything to create jobs. But anyway, that's by the way. So in effect, we have an unemployment rate that nobody knows for certain, but certainly it should be in the region of the 33% that we had the last time it was reported. So you have inflation rate 27.3%, unemployment rate, like I said, well, can hazard a guess. And then we talk of currency depreciation from about parallel market rate was maybe 700 or so. We are now at about 1,200. That's a close to 80% depreciation. What this have happened, what has happened, and then you talk of GDP growth rate, just averagely above
2.4.
The population growth rate. So what does this tell you? Like I said, our GDP, our population growth is about 2.5%. Your GDP growth the last quarter was 2.54%, which leaves no room for development. So if you take these parameters, which are the parameters you measure the economy, I can also even extend it further. In terms of capital importation, about 1 billion coming in the last quarter of the year. So then you now juxtapose these to the fact that even businesses that are operating in the country, foreign businesses that are operating in the country, are exiting in droves. GSK has just left. P&G is leaving. So we thought I have told you unemployment rate, inflation rate, exchange rate. What does that tell you? That the standard of living of Nigerians have deteriorated in all facets
so,
of
Mr.
human
Chukwu,
endeavor.
give me a figure. I understand all what you have said,
So
and this is what I discuss every day. But I want
now
you to
that we
give me
have
a figure. Yes, it's between 0 and 5,
no,
from 0
no
and 5, with all those parameters.
to look at the figure, the question you ask yourself, if you have a score of 5 and they have mentioned 5 parameters and you did not have a pass mark in any of them, so what would you score?
Give me the answer. I'm the one asking the question. You are my student now, the lecturer. So give me the answer.
If I score if I score the economy at above 20% performance, then I think those that know me will actually they can decide to stone me because I'm not being honest. If all the parameters I've mentioned to you are all in the red, then where would the score come from?
So are you saying that from 0 to 5, Nigeria economy is operating at 0?
No, maybe in the region of less than 1.
Okay, 1. Okay.
There's actually nothing that one can thump his chest and say, like, we did well in the outgoing year.
Okay.
I can't think of anything.
1 over 5, according to your own ranking, which is not a good score.
That's even generous.
Okay, so if you are not being generous, it would have been 0. But will you be fair if you say 1 or 0, bearing in mind that quite a lot happened in the first quarter or in the first half of this year? Our elections, President Tinubu came in, took some, bold macroeconomic policies, though we've seen that it seems that all that was not thought through because the social impact has been so hard on Nigerians. Will you really be so fair to say that the economy is operating at 0 to 1 over 5? Bearing in mind that all is not really bad, as it were. We are not like in a war situation, as it were. For example, inflation, though we are one of the highest in the world, we are not Venezuela, we are not, which other country is inflation 73%? I think Turkey, we are not Argentina, we are not all those, but we are with them. Venezuela, Iran, Argentina, we are with them as one of the top countries in the world having highest inflation. So, you know what I mean. So, are you fair enough?
Okay, Nancy, let's look at. I have been an advocate of some of the policies the government has taken since it came into power. If you recall, in your program, I have advocated stringently for removal of subsidy for harmonizing exchanges. Like what you rightly pointed out, it was done in a very haphazard manner. And because of that, we would not really gotten the benefit of those policies. Take, for instance, the issue of subsidy removal. No matter what anybody tell you, the reality is that the Nigerian government is paying subsidy again on fuel. So if you started from a point where you wanted to remove the subsidy and remove the subsidy, and then Nigerians are suffering through so much pains from that subsidy removal. But because of the way it was done, we've seen cost of landing fuel in the country in Naira terms higher than the pump price of the product. And therefore, no single private sector operator today is importing fuel. We have all gone back to NNPC trading, cap in hand to ask for allocation of fuel because they are the only ones who have access to Forex to import fuel. So you're back to where we were before the subsidy was removed. It's probably because of exchange rate issues. And that's why I said, look, so that the score of 1 is a generous one. The bold economic measures we are taking, but if you take them wrongly, you have unintended negative consequences that have outweighed the positives. And that's what we're dealing with.
Okay. Now, let's take a look at some of the happenings so far, at least perhaps in the last few weeks. We talked about currency market distortions, and let's talk about that a bit. At NAFEM, the official window last week, we saw the Naira ending at 1,099 Naira to $1. What do you think, what more can the monetary authority do in terms of stabilizing the Naira? That is one. The second question I will also add, because it's also linked to the Naira, is the cash scarcity that we're seemingly having. I saw in a daily today about Naira scarcity, that the DMBs were being fingered and some other stakeholders. What do you think? Of course, the Supreme Court has given the CBN a go-ahead that the old Naira notes should still go in tandem with the new Naira notes in circulation. So how do you see all of this playing out in terms of the currency market distortions?
Okay, let me start from the first part of your question. I think the central bank is actually hard pressed on the options available to them. Without the sufficient reserve, it's almost impossible for them to effectively intervene in the market to stabilize the exchange rate. What they have done, um, but for the negative implication of it, is the right thing to do to allow the NAFEX rate to depreciate further and try to eliminate the arbitrage opportunities in the between the parallel market and the NAFEX market. Like I said, we saw at the parallel market in the region of 1,200. So NAFEX at 1099 simply means that the spread has been narrowed down to about 100 naira, which will not incentivize anybody to go into round tripping. So I think I can understand the logic of what they're doing. The reality is that we don't have a reserve to maintain lower exchange rate today. So that will only come from what the fiscal authorities does. In terms of one, assessing long-term lending windows from the IMF or the World Bank, from any other source it could get funding from in the short term, because must get funding to clear the areas of unmet demand, to clear the forwards and the futures. It's only when we do that that the central bank will have a breather to be able to effectively manage the exchange rate from using monetary tools. As it stands today, without stability in the exchange rate, without liquidity in the foreign exchange market, you're not going to see foreign portfolio investors in the economy. That's what the windows you use to stabilize the exchange rate increase by increasing local currency debt instrument yield, so as attract short-term capital. But you're not good. That window will not appeal to foreign investors, foreign portfolio investors at the time when you are not able to meet liquidity build up areas of liquidity needs. Okay. So in effect, a lot of what will come from to stabilize the exchange rate will come from the fiscal authorities assessing and as well as improving crude production. I mean, the report from the minister.
And the option open to the fiscal authorities now is actually borrowing.
It's borrowing, and the internal option is to improve crude production. But then I think the NNPC GM said that look, there are about 46 leaks or how many leaks on the pipeline. I've always been afraid that
48.
with the level of poverty in the country today, it's difficult to really police the pipelines. Okay. So we have to struggle with meeting. Then the other aspect of the question, it's actually difficult for anybody to understand why we're having local currency scarcity in the banks. Local currencies are printed by the central bank or Nigerian mint and so if it is printed locally, so I don't know why anybody will explain, how anybody can explain that we can't print enough local currencies to meet the liquidity needs or the transaction needs of the country. It's, we've gone through this last year, December. It's actually not fair on Nigerians to start going through that same process again.
Okay. We have about 10 minutes to the end of the show, about 10 to 12. And let me see how many more questions I can pose to you. And let me take it from the angle of perhaps what is the conversation going on right now amongst you that are chief executive officers of companies regarding companies that are shutting down? I want to really know what you and your colleagues are discussing, fellow GMDs, and what you think is the outlook for the Nigerian economy 2024. If companies shutting down in Nigeria, that will be a trend in 2024 if government does not do anything about it. That's question one. The second question is around strengthening social protection for Nigerians, because as it is now, 2023 has been one of the most difficult year for many Nigerians. How do you think that the government should go about social protection? I know earlier on in the year, I think from July, President Tinubu announced palliatives and palliatives for companies and all of that, but it seems that it is not really come on stream, though I know that the Ministry of Poverty Alleviation has launched the CCT, Conditional Cash Transfer of 25,000. But how do you see all of this playing out in terms of having a good social protection as system that will cushion the hardship on Nigerians? That's question 2. Question 3 is the place where you're also operating, which one of your companies operating, the capital market. How is it that the capital market is on steroids when the Nigerian economy is not doing too well? You just gave it a score of 0 to 1. And the Osho index, like I mentioned earlier, netting close to 40% for this year. So if you invested in Nigerian capital market at the beginning of this year, you'll be getting an interest overall of nearly 40%, and it could be more than that in different sectors. Why is it that way? Since the capital market, according to you people that are economists, say that the capital market is a barometer for measuring the economy. But this one is not the barometer. Economy is going like this, capital market is going like that. So please explain this economy to me, this economic theory. It's not gauge for Nigeria, but it's a gauge for other countries. But here, they correlate. So go ahead, Mr.
Okay, let's start from the exit of SKG,
Yeah.
SGA and P&G. I am worried, and I think a couple of Nigerian investors, local investors, are worried. Some of the things we've been crying ourselves hogs are the ones that foreign investors can't continue to stomach. We've seen first the exit of trading companies like the games leaving the country because of FSD. I know of a company we're advising today that is also leaving. I wouldn't be able to mention their name on the public platform. So you have a number of these companies leaving. And let me tell you the challenge that goes with when foreign direct investors are leaving your country is that, one, the benefit of having foreign direct investors is what we call technological transfer. So Nigerians, if we have many of these companies here over time, will domesticate some of the competencies they have and be able to produce what they were producing. That, I don't think we've gotten to that point. Secondly, when they are leaving, it becomes difficult for you to go out there and ask others who have not come into your country to come in. The problem is that you can understand when the portfolio investors leave, but foreign direct investors who invested for the long term, who came up to set up factories, that they may not be able to sell and recover the amount they invested. When they leave, it sends a very negative signal to others outside. Because why would you go to a country when those there are running away and then you want to come in there? What's attractive to you? So for us, it sends a very bad message about the Nigerian economy and the prospect of the Nigerian economy, particularly as the government goes around scouting for foreign direct investors to come in. As long as we see this exodus, then it's difficult for those who have not come in. No matter what promise they make the president, it's difficult for private sector-driven businesses to come in. That's what we must realize. And my approach is doing, the government must engage not just foreign direct investors, also local investors, and find out the discomfort or the disincentive or the issues that are impeding their success or constraining their businesses, and see if there are some of them that government will be in a position to lift.
Okay.
Then to your second question on the issue of social
protection,
social safety net or conditional support to the most vulnerable, I think we need to have an effective and reliable register of the people who are in extreme poverty. The challenge we have is that these tools have been used to dispense political favors by those in political offices. We must have that. And when you are on that poverty register, you must also present yourself for opportunities to work, so that, like in other countries, if you are getting a government handout, you only have a timeline to do that. I think after a couple of months, they will yank you off that list and know you are just a lazy person. So there must be accountability when it comes to the issue of social safety net. But we, as a country, we must have a comprehensive social safety net that will be bottom up, driven from the streets to the districts to the local government, and it should be available to us electronically, virtually, so that if they say Nancy, Chief Mrs. Nancy Naji is on that list, I'll go there and query, why would Nancy be on that list? Because I know she's a rich woman.
Hey, Mr. Chukwu, hey, okay, we are all hustling, no? But
you don't pass hustling, no?
Hey. Okay, go ahead.
Then your third question is, why do we have a equity market that has gained close to 40% when the economy grew at 2.54%. There is clearly disconnect between the performance of the capital market, equities market, and the Nigerian economy. Couple of things. One is that because Nigeria's currency is not, our currency is not where you can actually move from one currency to the other. That is, so what you have is that local investors are limited to Nigerian assets or Naira assets. So you have the PFAs of this world, you have other institutional investors who cannot invest in outside this country because our currency is not compatible. So they are limited to investment opportunities within the country. And what are those investment classes you have in the country? You only have equity, you have fixed income instruments. Until recently, the fixed income space was quite weak in terms of return. So investors looking at the yield, comparing the yield on fixed income instruments and the foreign currency, equity instruments are limited to invest in equity instruments. So you saw a lot of capital pouring into that. But one thing I must say, which is unfortunately, I must say it on national TV, that I believe some of the current valuations we see in the market are highly overvalued.
Okay.
Which means some bubbles are built in some stocks, not across the entire sectors, but there are some stocks that you can't see the fundamentals supporting their current prices.
So can you give me can you just give me like two, either stocks or sectors, to be safe for
No,
you? If you don't want to do stocks, do sectors.
Okay. If you don't want to do stocks, it's
But
not
if
that
you
you
want
don't
to
want to
do
do.
stocks, quickly tell me where those bubbles are building. So perhaps for
If
people
you
that are
want,
investing, they will know what to do.
if you want to do stock, the banking sector is still a very good sector to invest in.
Okay.
The upstream oil and gas sector is still a good sector to invest in. But then there are other sectors that you have bellwethers that you can invest in. But what you don't do is don't take a blanket portfolio investment where you invest in every instrument.
Okay.
You need to consult people like Cowry to seek for
You will
technical and
pay me for that advert now. You
But
will.
you also pay me for advising you what not to lose money.
But we just have about 2 minutes to the end, and I guess you've answered the questions I asked you around social protection, what you and your colleagues are talking about in terms of companies exiting and how comfortable you are and capital markets. Now, my last question should revolve around outlook for 2024. Is it going to be good, bad, or ugly?
Nancy, the outlook for 2024 is still hazy, based on where we're coming from. We should expect exchange rate depreciation to depreciate further because we can see the source of capital inflow that will help us stabilize the exchange rates. In terms of inflation, pass-through effect of a depreciation of the local currency will mean you're going to see a higher level of import-induced inflation. I'm not aware that we've been able to put a handle on insecurity in the northern part of the country that could lead to an improvement in food production. Without improvement in food production, food inflation will remain obstinate in the coming year. The government has budgeted a budget deficit of 9.18 trillion naira. If that is funded largely by ways and means, because it's going to be difficult to fund from foreign capital market and on the local market, yes, they could raise some money, but whether you're going to raise 9.18 trillion from the local market, if you do that, you're going to stifle private sector investors. So we are going to see money coming from ways and means, which could also inject additional liquidity that could lead to higher uptick in inflation. So inflation rate will remain obstinate, exchange rate will depreciate further, and that investment in this sector, you may not see material improvement in investment.
So that's a very dicey outlook for the economy. But assuming we have more time, I wanted to ask you around the budget 2024 and if it indeed offers a kind of bright spot to the bad which you've projected for 2024. But I hope that our viewers are taking note of this, because some of these advices that that guests do say are pointers for you to be able to take note of and be able to enrich yourself and know how to, allocate your money. And I hope that our viewers are taking note of that. Thank you very much, Chief Chuku. I hope to see you soon. But if not, let this be happy holidays, and we'll see in 2024, God willing.
It's Christmas. Merry Christmas to Nigerians, and Happy New Year to them.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you very much, Mr. Chuku, and bye.